Hello everyone, welcome back to the Hindu Explainer series. I am Kushagra Goel. And on doubt side, one major doubt that students have had is regarding the Iran-US trade sanctions and what it means for India in general. So, first fact, India had one of the major place from which India imported oil was also Iran. But India has complied with the US sanctions, which were imposed after US exited the JCPOA. So a positive result from the talks between US and Iran would also generally reduce the prices of oil in or increase our diversification from where we procure crude oil. So that is one benefit. Now, secondly, with regards to India US trade, India has also invested in the Chabahar port. The Chabahar port is our gateway or the route through which we expand our trade to Middle Eastern and Central Asian countries, because the only other alternative to that is through Pakistan. But as we know, that trade between India and Pakistan has not been happening since 2019. It has been almost zero since then. So therefore, Iran is in itself, or what happens to Iran is something that is at the center of India's situation, all right, or India's overall foreign policy narrative also. Iran is one of the countries that has had strong links with India in the Middle Eastern region. It's like a friend in distance or a friend in an area where India does not have many friends. So therefore, that in itself becomes important. Now, what can we expect from the conversation is that there is a willingness on Iran's part to not nuclearize itself. Why? Because once you nuclearize yourself, your neighbors who feel threatened would also do it. So that is the threat of nuclear polarization. Then second is also the enhanced security apparatus that you need to build once you procure nuclear weapons. And thirdly, the trade sanctions that Western countries are for when you acquire nuclear weapons. So it is in this light there is willingness from Iran's part to actually comply with what or go back to the JCPOA, and then on the US part to not have sanctions imposed, because what it only creates, once you impose sanctions on Iran, it creates the situation in Middle East as very volatile. And that is something that we have been seeing in Yemen. Yemen is one of the center areas where a war is ongoing. And the war is indirectly backed by Iran and Saudi Arabia. And so therefore that becomes an important concern for overall general knowledge. Now, on that point, a lot of you have been asking about the questions or how to get clarity about preparing for current affairs. Now, one thing that I've always told you is that you don't have to focus primarily on a particular date. You have to focus on the issues. Every day when we end the newspaper, we also tell you what becomes important. So therefore, I don't say the date on which you need to note it down. I tell you the topic that you need to note down. And only when you have covered major current affairs topics, your basis for this will be overall ensured. So there is no one silver bullet that I can tell you that if you shoot, you will be able to get all the current affairs. Current affairs is all about consistency and knowing things in totality. So therefore, make sure that you are consistent with the topics, and your notes should also be based on topic wise. All right. On that note, I will begin with today's newspaper. So one major thing on 4th of April is the clash that has taken place between central forces and the Naxals. The area where the attack has taken place is in Sukma area in Chhattisgarh. Sukma is the southernmost district of Chhattisgarh. Area around this region, that is western Odisha, southern Chhattisgarh, is the one where Naxalism is still prevalent or is a threat to the overall security status. All right. So therefore, this is a little bit of history of the events that have also been happening in recent times. And in general, we need to make ourselves abreast with the overall concept of Naxalism. Naxalism is a violent movement that does not believe in a democratic state. It believes that the rights of minorities, tribal population is affected when the democratic state moves in, and therefore to ensure your rights you need to overthrow the state. Now, any violent action against the state is not possible in Indian constitution. Violence is something that Indian constitution does not recognize, and Naxals at the end of the day are also Indians, but they have a right to peaceful protest and not violent attack. And therefore this is something that government has been trying to curtail violence, ensure the rights of those who are affected, and reduce the fear. And that is why Naxalism has been on the decline in the country for past decade or more. Our former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh had called it the biggest threat to India's security. And therefore, internal violence is one that bleeds the country out is like a slow burner, and therefore that is something that needs to be addressed at the earliest possible time. Moving on the left hand side, COVID cases are rising, and at the same time the government has now imposed a freeze on registration of new healthcare staff. Why? Because it has been reported that false registrations are being made of not actual healthcare workers but someone else on pretext of them being part of the healthcare system. Then moving on, apart from that, on the front page, nothing of real note for us. All right, on the second page, this is about the transit corridor between Delhi and Meerut, rapid transport corridor that is being built on areas around the national capital Delhi region. All right, then moving on, apart from this, on the Sunday newspaper, as you all know that there is no editorial page on it, right? And the focus is assembly elections because campaigning is about to end in most of the areas. All right, so therefore the most important news that becomes for us to be noted down is on this page. One, India extends condolences to Taiwan. Taiwan is one of the other regions of China that has some autonomy. All right, India has had direct relations with Taiwan. Taiwan believes it is independent of China. China imposes its will on Taiwan. So that is another dispute of within China. All right, so as we know that in past 1 year, China has been at the forefront of headlines in general in South China Sea, in borders of India, China, and also Taiwan. But why is Taiwan in news right now is because of a railway accident that took place that took away 50 lives. But what becomes important is India extension or continuous close ties with Taiwan, even though our ties with China are overall strained since the Galwan Valley clash. All right, apart from that, there is update: no trade with India now is the statement from Prime Minister of Pakistan. India-China trade has been zero since India changed the status quo of Jammu and Kashmir. Article 370 was amended in August in 2019. Since then, India's trade with Pakistan has been nil, and therefore there were a proposal to renew trade ties with India, but that was rejected by the cabinet of Pakistan government. Not that Indian government has made any comments about this or bothers about it anyway, because it was not India who initiated the ban on trade. And secondly, it has always stated that the position on Kashmir is that it was an internal matter and there was no need for approval from another sovereign state on the amendment that India carried out. All right. Then moving on the left hand side, Biden lifts Trump's sanctions on international court officials. What is this about? The ICC is the court that carries out or prosecutes those people under the Rome Statute. All right, so for example, we have the UN Charter. Under the UN Charter, each member country needs to respect the sovereignty of each other. Similarly, Rome Statute is also international instrument. What it does about or talks about is crimes against humanity. So, what are these crimes against humanities? Now, one case on basis of which Donald Trump had imposed sanctions, which was to curtail their funding, not let them inside American borders was about the crimes against humanity carried out by US forces in Afghanistan. We know that US has been engaged in a war with Taliban in Afghanistan. But war also has certain rules, and that concept that wars have rules is known as international humanitarian law. And therefore, what it means is, when you are in conflict with someone, you cannot target civilians. It is this abuse of civilian rights that ICC wanted to explore in United States. Take action against those soldiers or officials who were involved in such violations, all right? It is the same pretext on which the Sri Lankan dispute is also, or the resolution in UNHRC was all about. That the victims or Tamilians and minorities want actions to be taken against those officials who violated the rights of civilians. And that is what Sri Lankan government had not done, and therefore it had knocked, the minorities had knocked the door of the UNHRC, all right? So therefore, crimes against humanity becomes one of the major topics that you need to be prepared for from current affairs perspective, all right? Or could be part of your legal also. So it is in this slide that you need to be aware of these developments. Moving on. Then on the left-hand side, the profile is about Carrie Lam. Carrie Lam was an appointment by Beijing. She has been the one in charge while the democracy in Hong Kong has now been completely suppressed. She was at the forefront of carrying out these actions of Beijing. She was a confidant of Xi Jinping. It was the campaign against her or democratic protests against her appointment or her functioning that triggered Beijing to carry out far more repulsive steps against democracy in Hong Kong. So this is her profile, but what becomes important is her position that she held, all right? She continues to hold it till the new elections take place in 2021. Then on the left-hand side, Madhav Kumar, Nepal. This is the political story of Nepal and how he is trying to carve a political space for himself now that the Communist Party of Nepal has had a formal split, all right? So this is internal politics of Nepal. Who gets how much share of power is not relevant, all right? So moving on the Q&A page, all right? So the first Q&A is regarding the DRS system and the tweaks that have been coming. Now that is something about cricket in itself, too specific in general, but the DRS system is a review mechanism that is used to challenge the decision of the on-field umpire, all right? Now what will be called, or in general, what becomes part of the stump, or when the most or the largest controversy about this was the umpire's call, that even if the review or the automatic system shows that the ball would have hit the stumps, nevertheless, if the umpire said no or is in the bracket of umpire's call, the on-field umpire's decision would stand. This was to give strength to on-field umpires or not make them completely redundant. However, Indian male team captain Virat Kohli had criticized the system that it creates a lot of ambiguity, gives too much power to the on-field umpire in light of the spirit of the game, which is that correct decision should be given and not preference of on-field umpire over third umpire. So therefore, it is this that has been in news. Then on the left-hand side, reversing the ban, the H-1B visa that Indians get the maximum benefit of. 70% Indians or applicants in total of H-1B visas are Indians. And therefore, this is the one that has driven India's IT sector growth overall, all the way from India to the Silicon Valley in California, United States. So this visa was something that the predecessor of Joe Biden had banned further issuance of this in light of rising unemployment in USA. But that is something that has now not been extended, and therefore fresh visas will be issued, which is something that has been welcomed by the IT sector there. Now, maintaining the inflation target at 4%, we have already discussed this part regarding how the RBI will ensure that the inflation remains 4% as the target, with 2 to 6% as the range of it, all right? This benefits or ensures security to the consumers, all right? But the most important thing from Q&A is about the big push for digital currency in China. The digital currency in question is digital currency electronic payment, or the digital RMB, the renminbi is the currency of China. Now, all of you will be aware of e-wallets, right? Now, let's say you have Paytm, Google Pay, Bheem, PhonePe, any e-wallet that you possess, right? So what you do to have cash in the e-wallet, you have a bank account, you put money from that bank account to the e-wallet and then make payment to someone else e-wallet, right? But what is happening is the e-wallet itself is not something that the government controls or the state sanctions, right? The mechanism or the software process of the e-wallet is independent to each company. China, or the DCEP, why is this in news, is the official e-wallet for Chinese. Now, this is something that, moving beyond cryptocurrencies conversation, is what is in highlight. What this does is it keeps the transactions that are happening on e-wallet in the purview of the official banking system and reduces the reliance on private companies for digital payments like these. That there should be some amount of security and redressal and an official push for such e-wallet mechanisms. What this does is it ensures digital payments are happening. It removes the question of cryptocurrencies. The purpose of cryptocurrencies in general, something that we have multiple times discussed, is to reduce oversight, is to ensure that everyone in the system knows and not one government is in charge of a cryptocurrency. But by moving beyond this, by having an official digital wallet, the government in China or the banking system of China is making the conversation regarding cryptocurrencies mostly redundant for the larger population. Why? Because it is facilitating digital payments, something that cryptocurrencies want. It is ensuring that money is always in a digital mechanism. That, for example, when you go to a bank, right, you have, let's say, 10,000 rupees in a bank account, you go to the bank and you withdraw money, let's say 5,000 rupees. Now that 5,000 rupees can be stolen, can be spent, but has now moved out of the banking system. But to ensure or enhance banking sector-led growth of the economy, you need more and more money in the banking sector. So you want to reduce this slippage or leakage of the banking sector. How do you do that? By having this official wallet. So basically, people will not need to have a separate e-wallet. They can just use the money in their bank account to do that. Now, India already has a UPI system wherein we can do digital transactions without actually taking out money. We can do a transaction as low as 1 rupee to approximately 2 lakh rupees also without any interference, right? So that is digital transactions. So we have a different system, but this in itself is a mechanism that China has found, which is to bifurcate or reduce the conversation regarding cryptocurrencies in China, all right? So that is something that they have done, all right, and reduce the reliance on private sector, right? Then moving on the economic front, nothing of real note for us here, and on the sporting side, more anticipation for the Indian Premier League, right? So the most important news from today's newspaper on the Q&A side is regarding digital currencies, digital transactions, digital payments, all right? The Chinese currency in itself, because now China is the second largest economy of the world, has higher growth prospects than the largest economy of USA. The economic policies that the Chinese central bank or the government takes has far long issues or overall impact on the trade China has with multiple countries. The policies they make affect everyone else, and the technologies they employ are something that can be employed by other countries too. So that is something that needs to be noted down. Along with that is the conversation regarding Naxalism, because it is now at the forefront at the clash that has taken place in the Sukma district. Apart from that, on that note, we will conclude for the day. Thank you so much and see you all tomorrow.